Hey guys, krackakhan here, and today I'll be doing a con review for Lost Planet 2. So I won't be giving the game a score or a rating, but I will be listing the pros and cons in my opinion after the time I spent playing the game, and then at the end I'll give my recommendation on whether I think it's worth playing. It is worth mentioning up front that it requires the dreaded Games for Windows Live to play since it was made in 2010. It is still possible to get it running fine on Windows 8 or 10, but it just requires a little more work, with installing the latest Games for Windows Live, running it in compatibility mode for Windows 7, and creating an account. But if you can get past this, I think you'll find a game worth playing. So for the story, just like all of the other Lost Planet games, this takes place on the planet EDN-3, which is an inhospitable world home to large insect-like lifeforms called the Acrid. I personally enjoy this setting, and the humans against giant bugs and impossible odds reminds me of Starship Troopers. As you can see here, unlike the other Lost Planet games, this one has much more diverse environments, and EDN-3 is no longer just a frozen planet. The story for the game actually seems pretty minimal, and there's not really any character development, and it mainly just serves to keep the action moving since the focus is on co-op and action. That being said, the cinematics are still pretty enjoyable. The emphasis in this game is definitely on the action and supports the co-op campaign style, which I actually think helps set it apart and aid in the pacing of the game. There isn't those long segments of walking around in the frozen wilderness as there is in the first and third Lost Planet games. This makes it a more militaristic approach and focuses on the battles between the factions vying for control. The game supports up to 4 players online, but can be played single player with bots. Unfortunately, there's not many people left online, which is understandable since the game came out in 2010, but still unfortunate. Even playing with the bots is pretty fun. The thing I found most annoying about the first Lost Planet game is getting constantly knocked down, and sometimes happening multiple times in a row where right as you get back up you get knocked down, but luckily in this game they're farther and fewer between, and I've mainly only noticed it on a few boss fights, such as this one. A lot of the boss fights do work pretty well, actually, and they feel pretty epic. As the series is known for, you have to target key parts on the Acrid and blow them off to weaken it before finishing it off. There are also large fighting robots in the game called vital suits that you can use to aid in destroying the Acrid, and it helps to mix up the combat a bit. This also showcases a bit more of the dismemberment that I mentioned previously. I did like that the game did not penalize you pretty much at all for dying, and just allowing you to respawn within a few seconds. And then get right back into the action. So as you can see here, in addition to the Acrid, there's also a lot of fighting with the humans, the other human factions. I didn't enjoy this quite as much as fighting the Acrids, though. and found that their heavy use of machine guns was rather annoying. Also, what was kind of annoying is that if you're getting hit by anything, you can't shoot back. So here's a little more of how I thought fighting the humans could be a little bit annoying at times. You can heal yourself at any time, as seen there. But these machine gun nests just take too much hit if you don't have heavy weapons. And apparently they're nuclear powered. But don't worry, I'll break the fall with my neck. I think that despite being made in 2010, both the cinematic graphics and the actual game graphics are still quite good. So for my final verdict of my con review, the pros that I noticed in playing so far is the setting was pretty enjoyable, the graphics have held up well, the focus on co-op and the additional AI companions for single player, the enjoyable combat, and the epic boss battles. For the cons, the main one really is that it requires games for Windows Live, which it required some additional setup. It wasn't too unreasonable to get it working, but just kind of stinks that it was there. It's understandable because it came out in 2010 and that was still being used for whatever reason. There's also not much of a story here, really. There's no characters, mainly because it's focused on that co-op and having just multiple people there. But there's not really any characters, no development. But it's an interesting setting, and I think that kind of like pushes it along. Another big one is that there's no one really playing on multiplayer. I've seen like one server on Versus, which kind of stinks because it looked pretty fun when it was working. And you may be able to find people for the co-op. The servers are still working for that, but they'd have to have a Windows Live account, which also sucks. But if you have a friend that plays it, I think it would be a good time playing this on co-op. So for the final verdict, if it's on sale, I just picked it up on sale, it was a few bucks. It's definitely worth a few dollars if you like third-person shooters or you've played the other Lost Planet games or this seems like your type of thing. Definitely worth it in there. I couldn't really recommend it at the $20 price tag. That seems a little high since this came out in 2010, so it's old. But I don't know. I'd recommend playing it. I'm enjoying it so far and looking forward to finishing it out. Plus, in what other game can you get shot out of an alien's butthole?